What's up, everybody? Matt Moran here for another weekly update. So there's lots of good stories to go over here this week. The first and the biggest one is the long-awaited Lamborghini Urus reveal was this past week finally. So the 2019 Lamborghini Urus here in its production form. We have all the details on it here and see what it looks like. And, you know, personally, I'm not a huge fan of the looks. To me, it's a little underwhelming. It really looks so much like the Audi Q8 concept, which is going to be a production vehicle here next year, and it just looks so similar. I think it's based on the same platform roughly, but it's just this whole vehicle is a little disappointing in just how much parts sharing there is. And really doesn't feel like a full-blown Lamborghini to me. But anyway, here's the numbers on it. It uses the 4-liter twin-turbo V8 engine that does 641 horsepower and 627 pound-feet of torque. And you might remember, I think the original Urus concept had a V10 in it, but they said they went with the twin-turbo V8 because the low-down torque you get with this twin-turbo V8 makes it better for off-roading, which is true, but it's just this motor is going to be in everything. It's already in the new Cayenne Turbo. It was just revealed. It's in the Panamera Turbo. It's going to be in the Audi A8 at some point. Future Bentleys are going to have it. Future RS Audis. This motor is just being shared everywhere. So, I mean, it's just a completely generic Volkswagen Group motor. They just threw in this thing. And yes, it's doing, you know, almost 100 more horsepower over the Cayenne Turbo. So it's going to be faster and more aggressive. But it's still just the bones are the same. You're just basically running a tuned Cayenne Turbo as far as the motor goes. So it's just, but anyway, I'll continue on here. It has an 8-speed automatic transmission, a standard automatic, again, not the dual clutch, not the single clutch of the Aventador or, you know, the Huracan's dual clutch, a normal 8-speed automatic transmission. Again, makes sense, I guess, you know, considering most of these Uruses will probably just be sitting in traffic, inching up, going to expensive shopping malls and things like that. But, so the auto makes sense, but again, just not a full-blown supercar SUV or something, you know, it's just a standard 8-speed automatic. It's a good automatic, but still. 0 to 60 for this thing, though, is 3.6 seconds, which is, you know, pretty good time, very impressive. 189.5 mile per hour top speed, which makes it, I believe, the highest top speed of an SUV. I think it beats the Trackhawk and a couple of the others there. It has standard carbon ceramic brakes, active roll control, torque vectoring, rear differential is included as well. And Lamborghini says they're expecting this thing to beat the current SUV lap time record at the Nürburgring, which was the Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio. That is a 7:15 time around the Nürburgring, so they're saying it should be lower than that. There's a bunch of different drive modes, of course. There's Strada, Corsa, Sport. There's Neve, which is snow. There's Terra, which is off-road, and Sabbia, which is sand. And those will, you know, lower or raise the suspension accordingly. It's an air suspension, of course. Rear wheel steering is also in the Urus here, and can change the steering angle for those rear wheels by a positive or negative 3 degrees, give or take. And that's the same system that's in the new Aventador S. So anyway, it's going to be on sale in 2018 as a 2019 model, and the price tag is going to be about $200,000 starting, and of course they're going to sell tons of these things. They're actually expecting it to double their annual global Lamborghini sales from 3,500 to 7,000, and I think that even is conservative. I'm sure these things are just going to fly out of the showrooms, yeah, it's just, you know, it's just using, you know, ho-hum automatic. It's just using the, you know, same old 4-liter twin-turbo V8. Awesome motor, but, you know, for a Lamborghini, you just want it to be more special. It doesn't really look all that crazy to me either. I mean, it's not bad looking, but I think they went a little too safe with it, to be perfectly honest here. I don't know. But anyway, let me know your thoughts about the Urus in the comments below. Another vehicle that was shown off looks like a coupe-style SUV. Lexus has shown a teaser for the LF1 Limitless concept, which they're going to be showing at the Detroit Auto Show in January. And they call it a flagship crossover that redefines the boundaries of luxury. So this sounds like a top model, top-of-the-line thing for Lexus whenever it does eventually get produced, which is almost a certainty with how hot these coupe SUVs are. This one will be primarily competing with the BMW X6, the Audi Q8, once those actually come out, and the GLCs, Mercedes, and the GLE coupes, all those types of vehicles. It looks very aggressive there from what we can see so far. We'll have to wait, for more teasers and the full reveal in Detroit. Another interesting little story that popped up this past week was Mazda and their problem with not having all-wheel drive in their sedans. So, actually, Car Advice interviewed the Mazda North America CEO, and he admitted that there is a huge demand for all-wheel drive vehicles, especially in the premium market, where I think it's 80 or 90% on the East Coast buy an all-wheel drive version of whatever their premium luxury sedan is. And Mazda's trying to get themselves up market a little bit and being a little more prestigious than the ordinary brands, kind of a bridge the gap between the full-on premium stuff and the normal non-premium stuff. But anyway, he says they're looking into trying to add all-wheel drive to the models. It's just it doesn't work with the engine layout configuration. There's no way for them to fit in all-wheel drive. The only sedan with all-wheel drive they have is the Mazda 6 in Europe with the smaller diesel engines. It works with those, and they have enough room, so they have an all-wheel drive system for those. But for our even standard, especially not for the 2.5-liter turbo, they say there's no room for it in that configuration. Possibly for the standard 2.5-liter, but they didn't say anything about that. But basically, everyone was saying we want all-wheel drive with the 2.5-liter turbo, basically a Mazda Speed 6 version, or doing this combo in a Mazda 3 for a Mazda Speed 3. And it sounds like there's no room in these current platforms. Thankfully, we do know that there's going to be an all-new platform for the 2019 Mazda 3. That's going to get that new Skyactiv X engine with its variable compression or whatever. And so that's going to be, pretty cool and cutting edge, and hopefully that will have, they will hopefully have enough foresight to build in some kind of room there for that 2.5-liter turbo and all-wheel drive for hopefully a future Mazda Speed model for that new gen Mazda 3. And then hopefully whenever the Mazda 6 does a complete redo in a couple of years, there'll be some kind of new platform that supports it as well. But for the time being, looks like there will not be any all-wheel drive for the Mazda 3 or Mazda 6, and therefore no all-wheel drive Mazda Speed versions as well. It just does not fit according to them. So that's the way it is, which is unfortunate, but cool to see a transparent reply like that from Mazda, so that it's not us just wondering and getting angry as to why they don't have it. It just simply doesn't work according to them. So interesting to hear that. Another CEO that was talking at the LA Auto Show this past week was Porsche's CEO was talking to Automotive News, and he confirmed that the company is still working on a 911 hybrid, and it's still in development. It was kind of one of those things that was on again, off again. No one really knew whether they were doing it or not. They said they canceled it because it added too much weight and cost and complexity that it wasn't worthwhile for the 911, but now it sounds like they're still going to do it. I think it's just like, it's inevitable they're going to have to do some type of electrified 911 down the road with all these cities going towards banning gasoline engines and stuff. What are you going to do? You have to have some kind of hybrid system eventually. I mean, it might be 20 years from now, but you have to start going that direction. And so it sounds like what they're saying here, it's not 100% finalized either, whether or not they're even going to use it in the next few years here, but they said it's likely that it's going to happen eventually. They said that if it were to come to market, it would come to market probably halfway through the next gen 911's life cycle. So even though there's going to be this all new 911 here relatively soon, it won't be introduced with that. It'll be either halfway through like the Mark II version of this new gen 911 or sometime later even than that. But they said they would be gunning for about a 40-mile electric range, all electric range, with this hybrid version. So you could, once again, drive it around a city, and then once you get out into the country, turn that gas motor back on and have your fun. So anyway, interesting to hear them talking about that. Speaking of electric cars, though, the Saab 9-3 is officially back in production in a roundabout way. It's not called the Saab 9-3 anymore. It's now called the NEVS 9-3. But basically, this Chinese company, bought the rights to Saab, but then they lost the rights to the Saab name, but they still have the rights to the platform for the 9-3. They're basically just swapping the badges and lightly updating the styling. Otherwise, it looks basically just like any other 9-3. So production has actually started in China on these, and apparently they have a ton of interest and a ton of people that have been ordering these. And apparently they plan to build 50,000 of them in phase 1 and 220,000 of them in their second phase, whenever that is. But anyway, some details about this electrified 9-3. So it has an electric range of 186 miles. It has an in-cabin air filtration system that removes up to 99% 99% of pollution in the air, which is a big deal for China since so many of their cities are heavily polluted, unfortunately. It also now has in-car Wi-Fi, smartphone connectivity, so I'd be curious to see what the interior looks like with some kind of updated infotainment, and it also is capable of over-the-air software updates. So pretty cool, but again, this is still based on a car that was designed and engineered back in 2002, and I'm sure they've made some changes, but still it just seems kind of strange, to have this old car being paraded out onto stage as this new thing. But anyway, cool to see the 9.3 getting a second lease on life there, and so interesting to see that. Other China news here, Ford has announced this past week they're going to be launching 50 new vehicles in China by 2025, and that 15 of those are going to be all new electrified models. Now, electrified is the key word here. That doesn't mean all electric. It means hybrid and mild hybrid and all that kind of stuff as well, and that could be kind of stretched out. Like the Ford Focus, the new one could potentially have a mild hybrid version, a full-on hybrid and then a full-on EV. So there's 3 different versions of a Focus. That makes up 3 of those 15 right there. But they're just continuing to expand, their electric vehicles there for China, of course, because that's what they need over there and what their government is going to be demanding. Other things here, Ford news-wise, they've also revealed some improvements to the Super Duty F-Series trucks for 2018. So they have a couple of different engines for these, but the new updates are for the 6.7-liter Powerstroke V8 turbo diesel. And the horsepower on that has increased to 450 horsepower, which is 10 more than last year. And now it has 935 pound-feet of torque, which is also 10 more than last year as well. So the engine has a few upgrades here to help it cope with the additional power. It has cylinder heads that have been redesigned for greater strength under higher loads, and they've also optimized the fuel and turbo calibrations for better boost and all that kind of stuff. It still has best-in-class payload for conventional hitch towing, and so that's 21,000 pounds now, and it can also tow 7,360 pounds of payload as well. And then the F450 crew cab 4x2 dually is a new model they're adding here to the Super Duty lineup for 2018, and that can tow now with a gooseneck trailer up to 34,000 pounds. I'm not a truck person, so I don't know how impressive all this is, but apparently that's 1,500 pounds more than last year's Super Duty dually or whatever. So anyway, the starting price for those is going to be $52,830. So anyway, interesting to see that. Some other truck news here. The 2019 Ram 1500 has been spied yet again, and this time we basically just see the grille finally. That part has been covered up on all the other mules we've seen out spied running around. So now we can see the grille. Kind of has some Raptor influences to it there on that one in particular. There will probably be other grills, like how the current Ram has several different grill choices. But that's just one of them, and so interesting to see that. And we'll be seeing the full reveal of the Ram at the Detroit Auto Show in January. So anyway, cool to see that spied. More spy shots of some more interesting vehicles here, getting away from all this truck stuff. BMW was spy testing the new 8 Series, and it has less camo now than it has had in the past, and looks pretty production ready, honestly. You have some production ready headlights there, and it's sadly got some more toned down styling, which makes us more certain this is definitely the production version. It's not quite as extreme as the concept, not even close, but should be less offensive to those that are going to be buying them and more middle of the road. BMW doesn't like straying too far from the standard styling of their models, and so it sounds like they're going to kind of morph this into a little bit of a safer look than the concept, sadly. Anyway, this is going to be shown sometime next year, probably. Could be as soon as the Geneva Motor Show, because it does look really close to being done, honestly, at least in my opinion. But it could be later on, like the LA Auto Show next November or something like that. I'm sure a vehicle like an 8 Series is very popular, or would be very popular in LA, and so it could make some sense to debut it there. But anyway, interesting to see that. A few other German vehicles were spied this past week. The first is Audi was spy testing their SQ2 for one that was spy testing in Europe. And this is a vehicle we don't get here in the States, and I don't think we're going to be getting the new Q2 in the States. I mean, maybe it's possible. But anyway, this SQ2 version uses probably, it's a safe bet that's going to have the S3 motor in it with its 306 horsepower, that 2-liter turbo motor. And yeah, I mean, I highly doubt we're going to get these in the States. But for those of you in Europe, there you go. The reveal is likely going to be at the Geneva Motor Show next year. And alongside that SPIED testing was a new Audi TT refresh, and it looks like a light refresh. The headlights and taillights and everything still look identical. Looks like maybe just a bumper change where there's a spoiler on the back of this one, so maybe it's a refresh to like the TTS or the TTRS. I'm not sure what the deal is here with this, but anyway, interesting to see whatever it is there on the TT SPIED running around, and that could be showing up at any point here next year. But anyway, cool to see that. Mercedes was SPIED testing the GLS, and this is the next gen version. It's on a completely new platform. It's the MHA platform, which is going to give it some weight savings and also give it better third row space, which you can see this is a big SUV. Lots of space there behind the rear wheels. Very long vehicle. It looks very interesting in the front there as well. It's got some skinny headlights going on, but it looks like it has clever camouflage, so it's really hard to tell what exactly is going on there in the front end as far as the grille and headlight situation. Out back, it has some dummy taillight units as well, so you can't really gain any insight on the back end as far as taillights and things like that go either. But anyway, interesting to see that SPIED, and most likely that'll also have, at least starting out with the new inline-6 motor that we just saw last week debut in the CLS. That'll probably find its way into this GLS here down the road as well. Another vehicle that was SPIED was a Land Rover Defender mule, and we know it's just a mule because it's a hacked up Range Rover Sport, clearly, and it's shortened and looks awkward and bizarre. This is not what it's going to look like. This is just, they needed a body to test the chassis on, so they hacked up a Range Rover Sport, threw it on this frame, and decided to go out for a drive. That's all this is. But it does give us some interesting details because you can see it's a very short wheelbase, so that's how we kind of know it's the Defender, which is, kind of like the Jeep of the Land Rover world, I guess, as far as Jeep Wrangler. But one thing that's upsetting a lot of purists is they got a clear shot of the rear suspension here on this, and it looks like it's going to be going to a unibody kind of setup where it's probably not going to be a body-on-frame truck-style suspension, which means it won't be nearly as good of an off-roader as the old Defender, and kind of washing itself out. And I mean, you can understand, if this happened to the Wrangler, people would be beside themselves. So, it's something that I think that Land Rover is expecting, and they don't really care because their chief creative officer, actually at the LA Auto Show last week, was talking and said that the new Defender is coming and that it would be polarizing in several different ways. I think he meant primarily in the styling way, that it probably won't have retro Defender-like looks, but also sounds like it's going to be going in a little bit of a different direction here. So, not sure what's going to happen there with the new Defender, but it looks like it's several years away still if they're just testing, a chassis and that's it. But it's interesting to see that, at least nonetheless. Another vehicle that was SPIED testing was the Cadillac, either XT3 or XT4. We're not sure what it's going to be called. I've seen both thrown around. But basically, this is the new crossover to kind of fight the Mercedes GLC and BMW X3, which the XT5 kind of already does, but it's a little bit bigger, so they want to have something a little bit smaller, of course. And so, not sure when we'll be seeing this. It could be like the New York Auto Show in April. It could be a little bit later than that. But as you can see in the front there, it's got some fake headlights still, so nothing to judge there. But we can see the grille, which looks very traditional Cadillac in its style of what we've seen over the past couple of years. We can kind of get a good shape of the whole vehicle. In the back end, we can actually see what looks like production taillights there, which seem like they have a vertical portion that go up kind of like an Escalade, but also have a horizontal portion as well. So not sure, what's going on with those taillights there. Might have some type of a Volvo type influence like you see on the back end of those. But anyway, interesting to see that SPIED running around, and hopefully we'll see that sometime next year. Some official Cadillac news this past week is they've officially revealed the CTSV and ATSV IMSA editions, which is to celebrate their manufacturer and driver title wins in IMSA. And so basically it's a special decal and accent package, but it's still kind of cool. So, obviously you can see they come in white here, and it has these red interior accents as well, which is kind of a cool touch. You have red mirrors, and it actually comes bundled with other options like a sunroof, carbon fiber accent package, and the Recaro seats. And so actually, surprisingly, if you get the ATSV sedan version of this, it's about $2,000 cheaper than if you were to option in all these options on your own. So if you're going for an ATSV sedan, it actually makes sense to go for this edition, and you get the extra exclusivity with it as well, and the cool looks. And so yeah, but those will be running $72,190. But if you go for the coupe version of the ATS-V, or you go for any of the CTS-V versions, then it's a couple $1,000s more than if you were to just option a car without this package. Just depends, I guess, on which one you get and how badly you want the package. But anyway, interesting to see that there wasn't any details listed as far as how many they're making or anything like that. But anyway, cool to see that nonetheless. Another thing that General Motors revealed this past week is their marketplace technology that they are officially releasing, and it's going to be an over-the-air update for head units in any 2017 and newer GM vehicle that has, I think, that new, the 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system. And so the promo video is kind of bizarre because it shows things like some of the features you can do, like you can order coffee right there from the screen in your car. But then you still have to go through the drive-thru in order to pick up your cup of coffee. So it's like, if you're going through the drive-thru and waiting in the line already anyway, then you might as well just hand them your card and pay for it that way. It's just like they're trying to fix a problem that isn't there, it seems. And then they go on with their little video here, and you can buy gas with it and pay for it with your Exxon Speed Pass or whatever the Shell equivalent is. And so it's like, oh, wow, you can just sit in your car and pay for gas there. But then guess what? You get out of your car, go to the pump, grab the pump, and pump the gas. And so again, what's so hard about just pulling out your wallet, swiping your card real quick, and being done with it? Like, it's, again, fixing a problem that is not there. Kind of weird. The only possible thing that I can see is that you can also reserve a table at a restaurant. And right now it only works with like TGI Fridays, but will work with other places eventually as well. And with that, you can book a reservation. And I guess it's a little quicker doing it that way than possibly pulling it up on your phone. But again, there's actually been some critics that have been really mad at GM for even revealing this, because if it works while you're driving, then it's just as distracting as a smartphone. And if it doesn't work while you're driving and you're having to, say, park there, then you might as well just use your phone, which everyone already knows and loves and uses, and it's probably faster anyway. And certainly has more places you can book than just TGI Fridays. So it's like, again, like I get what their vision is with this, and maybe down the road it'll make sense, with autonomous cars or something. But right now it's just like, why not just use your phone? If you're not going to be using it while you're driving anyway, and if you're using it while you're driving, it's too distracting. So I don't know. Seems kind of silly, to be perfectly honest, but I think GM's just trying to get a little piece of the pie there of, the transaction fees or whatever. But anyway, interesting to see that. Spyker this past week has revealed their new limited production of the C8 Illyrion. I always mispronounce Spyker names, but I'm guessing that's how you say it. Anyway, this new edition is called the LM85. They're only making 3 of them, and it's to send off, actually, the C8 Illyrion, because it's getting kind of officially killed off here, because the new C8 Preliterators are coming out, and that's the new model that's been already in production for a little while, but they're finally killing off the old one here and sending them out with these 3 models. And you can see they have wider fender flares now, exposed rivets there for the aluminum body panels, and it has a unique grille style in addition to the unique liveries there with the paint colors. That does look very cool. And a beautiful vehicle, just a very niche kind of thing. And anyway, interesting to see that. Subaru this past week has made some changes to the 2018 BRZ, but don't worry, nothing to get excited about. So for 2018, the BRZ now has a price increase of an additional $100. That's $100 more expensive than last year. And for that $100, here's what you get. Welcome lighting, which is for entry and exit. There's also an automatic headlight activation whenever the windshield wipers are turned on now. And then there's one-touch lane change turn signals is now a new feature. The last and final improvement here for the 2018 BRZ is there's now a higher quality shift knob leather for the manual and the automatic shift knobs. So $100 gets you a couple built-in little features there and a new shift knob. Big changes for the BRZ. But hey, I'm glad they just continue to build it, even if they refuse to give us the version we all really want. And lastly, Rimac has teased their new supercar that they're going to be revealing at the Geneva Motor Show here in March. We just have one teaser image here. We know it's going to be all electric, of course, like the previous Concept 1. And they say that it's going to be a true game changer, which is is a high thing for them to say, considering the Rimac Concept 1 already has 1,224 horsepower, 1,180 pound-feet of torque, does a 220 mile per hour top speed, and a 2.5 second 0 to 60. So how you're going to top that in a true game-changing way sounds like a Tesla Roadster competitor to me. But anyway, interesting to hear that. Speaking of Rimac and the Concept 1, if you want to see it, it's going to be on the new Grand Tour, the debut episode here Friday night, and I think it's going to be showing Richard Hammond's crash in the Concept 1, and of course it's just exciting to see the Grand Tour back with Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond, and James May. I'm a huge fan of this show. I'm just saying this because I'm excited about it personally. You should definitely check it out if you didn't watch last season's. This season looks like it's going to be even better. They're making some good changes. I think that everyone agrees are good changes. And anyway, it should be an awesome another season of the Grand Tour. So anyway, that's it for all the news this week, guys. So thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.